I didn't know a damn thing about the Marine Corps, history of the Marine Corps. I didn't know anything going into this. My reality was I had a little bit of an adrenaline junkie streak in me. You know, I've always been an extrovert. And I got to talking to a recruiter and a buddy of mine that was going in, and they said, hey, this is the hardest shit you'll ever fucking do. And so I was like, okay, like screw it, I'll do that.
Challenge accepted.
Challenge accepted.
Welcome to PricePlow.
What's up, CJ? This is Mike with PricePlow.com. I'm here with CJ Woodruff, veteran Marine. And so we have a supplement review of Total War. It's a pre-workout supplement by Redcon 1, which is a Special Forces themed supplement. Great stuff. And so in the comments on that video, there was a gentleman who was basically saying, hey, I'm 24 years old. Is it too late for me to join the armed forces? And so you weren't really engaging in the comments at that point in time and everything. So I was basically like, listen, do it. But, you know, I never served. You did. So I'd kind of like to hear what your stance is. Is it too late to join? Should someone join or not, really?
Well, yeah, so Mike kind of briefed me on this a little bit. I actually hadn't seen the thread. So I think there needs to be more context to it. That's the first thing. I will tell you without a shadow of a doubt, 24 is not too old by any means to join the service. So the age is irrelevant to me in that conversation. Now, yeah, are there a lot of 18-year-olds going in? That's when I went in. I was 19 years old. You know, it was right out of high school. I think I had my summer, and then I went to basic right after the summer of my senior year. So yeah, but I also was in boot camp with guys of ranging anywhere from 18 years old all the way up to 30 years old.
Oh, nice.
So, you know, there was definitely a range. Is there a majority of younger people? Absolutely. But I would also still consider 24 to be on the younger crowd. I mean, right. You're early 20s, that's relatively normal. There's a lot of guys that go in, they spend a couple years in college before they even join, go into basic. So I don't think that age is the issue there. I think the conversation on whether or not you should join the service, though, now that's a big conversation, and I think that's where more context needs to come out.
But yeah, so to answer that question, though, is if you really want to join the service, but age is the one thing possibly holding you back, don't let it hold you back.
No, yeah, absolutely. Then go. If you have everything else figured out, if you've got all that, and age the one thing that's the limiting factor, go. There's not going to be any sort of issue whatsoever due to your age.
Awesome.
So,
okay. Now the bigger question.
Yeah,
should I join the military?
Yeah, the bigger question is, should I join the military? I can only speak for one branch of the service. Now, I was fortunate enough to be able to serve alongside, Army guys, soldiers. I was fortunate to serve along Navy, Air Force. I mean, obviously, the Marine Corps is a branch of the Navy, so we actually have Navy, corpsmen and things that are attached to our units. But with that being said, I've never gone through Navy boot camp. I've never experienced the actual, active duty life of any other branch but the Marine Corps. Now, speaking from the Marine Corps standpoint, I am so glad that I joined the military. It is by far one of the best decisions I ever made in my life. And kind of give you guys some backstory. I was a skater punk kid that all I cared about was hanging out with my girlfriend. I didn't have, my parents, they did okay, but I wasn't a spoiled kid. I wasn't given things. I always had to, I had to mow grass to pay for my first shitty truck, and my mom was very adamant about that I didn't have this college money to fall back on. And so I didn't have some future just laid out there for me, and so I decided to enlist because I initially did it, to be honest with you, without thinking. Yes, I needed something to do, so that was a big part, but also I was not and I've never had my whole life been the most planned out individual. I didn't know a damn thing about the Marine Corps, history of the Marine Corps. I didn't know anything going into this. My reality was I had a little bit of an adrenaline junkie streak in me. I've always been an extrovert. And I got to talking to a recruiter and a buddy of mine that was going in, and they said, hey, this is the hardest shit you'll ever fucking do. And so I was like, okay, screw it, I'll do that.
Challenge accepted.
Challenge accepted. And so I found myself in boot camp, and but kind of to put you where I was living on a friend's couch at the time. I was, my senior year, I'd run away from home. I just didn't want to be at home. I didn't like my stepdad. Anyway. So I find myself in boot camp. I'm this kind of shithead kid, and I find myself in an environment that I was not used to, and it was an environment of discipline and no bullshit, the most structured, forced structure I had ever had to be in my life. I mean, down to the fact that, like, when you ate chow, like, you're straight faced. Like, I'm not allowed to cut my eyes at the guys next to me. And so you go through 3 phases in Marine Corps boot camp, and so it's over 3 months, and you go, into field training in second phase, where you're going to be learning rifles, and you're humping, and you're, there was a whole crucible part where it's like almost like you only get like 1 meal, and you have to make it last over multiple days and go through these missions and stuff. And the thing that I learned in boot camp, and the reason that I'm so thankful is I grew up. I was forced to grow up. And I think that that's something that a lot of young people don't get an opportunity to actually do until later in life. And so I was fortunate at the age of 19 when I got out of boot camp and I went through that. I had earned a title that was fucking hard to get. And I went through things that a lot of people don't go through. And when I got back to those same group of friends and I got back to that same lifestyle, I remember looking around going, you guys are fucked up. Like, y'all don't have, like, and I know it sounds bad, but I remember thinking the word that keeps coming to mind is nasty. I used to think, like, man, this is a nasty situation. This is like it was all about being squared away. And I was not squared away as a young person. I did not have responsibility. I did not, I didn't say yes ma'am, no ma'am. I didn't hold doors open for people. I didn't, provide for myself financially. I was basically, living off of a system that was broken, in my opinion, and I went somewhere where I got my shit together and I learned that there's going to be no handouts and you get it together. That's absolutely what made me the entrepreneur that I am today. That's what made me the motivator that I am today. That's what gave me the courage to do the things that I continue to do. My core values were established there in Marine Corps boot camp. And so that's something that I will never regret, I'll never take away from, is the best decision I ever made. With all that being said, all right, I do not believe that the military is for everybody.
Right.
I don't. Even though I didn't have my shit together, I've always been a strong-minded individual. I've always been able to tolerate a high level of stress. I was an adrenaline junkie. I was a guy that jumped out of a plane and figured it out on the way down, right? Like that was in my DNA. And so you put me in that environment, they say there's 2 things that are going to happen. Either you're going to become fucking Captain America or you're going to break. And I think you have to have a real conversation with yourself, anybody. Am I the type of person that is going to be able to handle that utmost amount of stress and be able to come out better? Or is that something that potentially would harm me in the long run? And that's not a question I can answer. That's not, but I get a lot of young people that, have come to me over the years like, hey, I was thinking about joining the Marines. What do you think? And that is an internal conversation you have to have with yourself. You have to really inventory your life. You have to decide where you are mentally and physically on whether or not, that's something you can handle. But if you're anything like me, if you can relate with me, at all, it was the best decision I made. So I'm 100% about it.
Is there a personality type that you may be able to steer away from the military, or if someone's not structured at all, or
So I actually think that, and again, this is very Marine Corps specific.
Bring it, go on.
But I got to be honest with you, the best Marines that I ever knew were extroverted assholes. Not like loudmouths, confrontational types, headstrong, overly confident. Those, and I'm talking prior to basic, those are the guys that, in my opinion, thrive the best.
That lines up with the Marines I know too.
Right. Well, the introverted guy, the little bit softer spoken, that individual who some of my best and closest friends are more along the lines of the opposite of Marines. Some of the closest people that I care about the most in this world, that I respect the most in this world, are actually softer spoken, not so extroverted, a little bit more introverted, like I said, a little bit more logical, not quite as extreme. I don't believe that they would be good Marines.
Cool.
But I think they're amazing people.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
I think they're, and I actually strive to be more like them a lot of times. But the reality is, I think that the Marine Corps specifically set up an environment that if you're not an overly confident alpha fuckhead, you might not make it. You know what I
Right,
mean?
uh-huh.
Like that's kind of the impression that I get. And I'm sure all walks of life have done it, but like that's typically what I see, as Marines. So,
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, getting back to what the original question was asked, you got to go back to like just the quote. You're going to regret the things you didn't do, not the things you did do.
Sure.
Like you could deal with anything for a few years or whatever, but I'm in my mid-30s now. Guess what? There ain't going to be no military life, and I never really wanted that. I don't have that regret, but if I had wanted that when I was 24 and been like, oh, I was too old, now I'd be really kind of regretting that if things didn't pan out for me.
Yeah.
But for me, clearly the entrepreneurial startup life was definitely more my avenue, so I don't have any regrets. But if you're young, 24 is not old.
No.
It's not. And I'm gonna look back at this video someday, 10 years from now, and be like, mid-30s is not old.
Yeah.
So it's like, just the best day. The best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. The second best time is right now.
Yeah.
So
if it wasn't for me making the decision to go into the military, if this gives you any moto or kick in the ass, if it wasn't for me going into the military, I went into the military at 19 years old. I was deployed overseas at 20 years old. I came home at 21 years old. I went into reserve status, so I was still a part of the Marine Corps, but I went into reserve status. I was an entrepreneur by the end of my 21st year. So I would not
that much time.
Yeah.
That goes by that fast.
No, it was that fast, and the truth is like I would not be where I am now if I didn't make that decision. You know what I mean? And 24 is young, but what you don't want to be doing is sitting around at 30 something and then asking yourself.
Oh, you're 32.
I am 32 now, man. It's time does fly, that's for sure. Oh, one more amendment I did want to make is if you are somebody that has a family, kids, that type of scenario. My honest opinion is I cannot support military life, and it's not that I don't think, like, the attractive part about having a family, especially if you're somebody that's like struggling with money and things like that, like having a baby and a wife, the tendency is to look at the military for structure and stability. But I gotta say, like, the internal side of that, like the lifestyle that comes along with that, I have seen it destroy families. I've seen it, like, more divorces, more trauma, and like issues there. I cannot sit here and support a healthy, committed relationship, or that type of environment, and recommending going to the military. I'm not saying it can't work. I'm saying that I think the majority of the time we see like more trauma there.
I've seen more breakups than I want to discuss from people I've talked to who had the military life and they're overseas, families at home. I think you're dead on. I'd probably even be more strongly about it. Just don't do it if you're married, is my opinion, because just because you're financially providing for the family, but you're not physically there,
Yeah.
I don't think that's the purpose of family. It's not about money, or it's not exclusively about money. So I thank you for adding that point. That's
cool.
That's excellent.
So yeah, hopefully this helped out, and we appreciate your comments and stuff on our videos, like
Yeah.
any of that kind of stuff. I mean, Mike and I want to do a little bit more lifestyle things, so questions, comments, all that stuff is super important to us, and I mean, I'm assuming it's important to you, right?
Of course, yeah.
All
So
right.
thank you so much, everyone, and yeah, ask away. Sure, CJ's got a lot more to say about this stuff, but he'll be in on these comments in this video, so thanks.
Absolutely.